All right. So it's good to see and have all of you. This would be an uh, interesting 5 days. So the core of the practice will be loving kindness and using the 6R method as taught by Bhante Vimalaramsi. And there's not a specific direction or aim that the retreat needs to go in. Um, it'll be tailored more for each person. Um, every morning during this time, we'll take the three refuges. We'll begin the day with taking the three refuges, the threefold refuge, and the 8 precepts. So I'll get into that today. I'll explain what all of that means, and yeah, the function of the training rules and all of this, and what the use is of having uh, this type of container is. Yeah, if there's anything to remember, it's this: from this moment until the end of the retreat in 5 days, from this moment until the final Dharma talk on Monday. I want you to be aware of loving kindness as much as you can. That's really the point. That's really the function. So unless the instruction's otherwise, and I have you like let that go and do nothing, that may be the case. But outside of that, I want you to just be aware of the loving kindness as much as possible. So today's day one, and we'll be using the spiritual friend as our initial object of loving kindness for the first day. So how do you meditate on the spiritual friend? You take a neutral person or a person that you have great respect for. You imagine their face in your chest, and you envelop them in the feeling of loving kindness. The initial instruction in how this was taught was to not use someone that is a family member or someone of the opposite sex, least to become a object for sensual desire. I'm not obsessive over uh, doing it like the total accordance with the orthodoxy. Just use a person you have respect for. Um, for example, if you were Tibetan, Dalai Lama would be the great figure. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, in my opinion. So that's the day one instruction. What does this look like? And don't worry, I'm not sick. It's just 5 in the morning. If I get up at 5 in the morning and I only slept like 4 hours, I have these like morning sniffles, but they go away after the sun comes up. Anyways, so what would the awareness of loving kindness look like right now? It would be tending to the feeling of the heart, of the loving kindness. So, like, now I'm thinking of uh, one of my teachers, right? So imagining his face in my chest. There's only image doesn't need to be clear. That's not important. But I'm imagining his face in my chest, and I'm just feeling that like turn, that orientation of the heart towards benevolence, towards love. That's sufficient. That's sufficient to be keeping the metta going. But you have flexibility, right? I could I could I could say, may you be happy. You right here while I'm talking you. May you be happy. And then that feeling of loving kindness opens up. The feeling is the object. So I want everyone to remember that the feeling is the object. Um, you wanna, uh, yeah. So uh, number one, most important principle: continuous awareness of metta from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep for the next 5 days. That's the number one most important thing. How do you do it? The 6R method. Every time you realize that you're unaware, you let the distraction be there. You relax the physiology. You smile, and then you feel the loving kindness again. You stay with the loving kindness. Your mind wanders. You notice that it has wandered. You let what the mind has wanted to be there, meaning whatever distraction your mind goes into, you just don't pull away from it. Don't push. Yeah, don't pull away from it, and then don't push it away. Just let it be. Relax the physiology. Smile again. Feel the loving kindness. Repeat. So I'll break down the 6Rs as well one more time. But number one, continuous awareness of metta. Number two is smile as often as you can. Okay. So that may appear weird to the people that you're around. Don't matter. Tell them to get over it. Smile as often as you can for the next 5 days. Oh, and along with the smile and this whole process, just enjoy it and have fun. Say these are the three most critical things. Fourth, maxim, you want to sit at least 6 hours a day. Number 5, avoid unnecessary distractions and conversations for the next 5 days. Some of you are taking the full vow of, or the full intention of silence. If you're not able to do that, it's fine. But basically, you want to be in the meditative zone, in the meditative mode. So if you usually talk about X, Y, and Z, if you usually complain about X, Y, and Z, if you usually, have like a specific kind of routine or way that you go about things, you want to break that for the next 5 days. Like, don't talk about it. If you usually walk your dog like on this particular route, go on a different route. I was just at a funeral yesterday. My friend's father passed away. He's a Jewish man. So I had a traditional Jewish funeral, and yeah, he said something. The rabbi said something interesting at the end. He said, when we, as our final interaction with the departed, we we stick a shovel into the dirt, and we take three um, we shovel 3 piles of dirt, and then we throw it over the casket into the ground. But to symbolize, or to have it be an important moment, we do it in an unusual way, like shovel the dirt with the backside of the shovel. Or if you're right-handed and you usually shovel, with your right hand, the backside of the shovel, do the reverse. What is the result of doing it in reverse? Like flipping it essentially from right hand to left hand. You never use your left hand, so you find that you're aware while you do it, because it's just weird. It's not like the normal. It's not the normal thing that you do. You never put dirt on the backside of a shovel. So when you do this type of, it's almost like a kind of pattern interrupt, and you find that, without effort, but in an unusual way, you become aware. So you could play with this, in the next 5 days, while keeping the meta continuous. Yeah, do things a little differently. Um, Avoid conversations you don't need to have. If you're right-handed and you take your coffee in your right hand, try it with your left. Try to open doors with your left hand. Your non-dominant hand, and you'll see how unusual it is. All right, so you want to sit at least 6 hours a day. The sitting sessions, according to the schedule, are pretty long. Um, if any, I'm sure some of you have noticed that the morning session is like an hour of talking and then 2 hours of sitting right off the bat. So, you can approach it how you like. You don't have to sit without moving for 2 hours. But the idea is that for those hours, you're really you're just sitting or walking. So something I recommend is that for the first, You want to go as long as you comfortably can without moving. Yeah. And sitting cross-legged is not necessary at all. You could just sit in the chair. But you want to do these long sits in the chair. So for the first day, try to just do 30 minutes, go 30 minutes without moving if you can. And then we'll extend it from there. After the morning talk, um, the schedule actually says there's like morning interviews and then there's the daily instructions and after breakfast. But that's just a general overview. Um, yeah, we may follow that to a T or not, but either way, the schedule is mostly as presented. After the threefold, refuge, and the precepts, we go into the uh, yeah. Probably what we'll do is we'll just sit for 30, and then I'll start the breakout rooms. And yeah, and the breakout rooms is your 10 minutes with me, 10 to 15 minutes with me each morning. Usually it just takes 10 because basically I just say how is the metta going? What are you feeling in the meditation experience? What's happening? Is there anything that is kind of snagging your mind or something that is really capturing you for whatever reason? Yeah, with this practice is not experiences are not the point necessarily. So like the mystical stuff that I talk about, a lot of the OBEs and dream yoga stuff like that, of course, things like this could always happen as a side effect. But the point is to just um, have continuous awareness of metta, smile as often as you can, enjoy it and have fun. That's the essence of it. You just want to be on the metta uh, as much as possible. That doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter what you feel, doesn't matter if you don't think it's going right. Uh, doesn't matter cessation, formless realms, all of this. Just enjoy the metta as much as you can. When it's ready, it'll open into equanimity, and then you'll proceed accordingly from there. So, okay. So we can begin with the meaning of threefold refuge and the function of the eight precepts. So the threefold refuge is the classic commitment, essentially. It's the commitment and the reverence to the Buddha, the teacher of the path to awakening, the Dhamma, the teachings of the path to awakening, and the Sangha, the community of those who practice the path to awakening in the three times. So in the past, the present, and the future. So it's all the Buddhas that have ever existed, all the Dhammas that they ever taught, and all the Sanghas that ever practiced. And it's by an acknowledgement of that your practice is empowered and protected. The concept of it is that this journey, this journey in awakening, and specifically this practice of metta, it came from somewhere. It came from someone. That came from the mind stream of an enlightened being, with the intention that it would help people become free from this dream, from this prison of delusion and ignorance that is our afflicted mind. So at the start of the day, we acknowledge the Buddhas, the masters, the beings that have gone beyond that affliction, gone beyond that ignorance, and that laid forth the path to deliverance. And then we pay homage to the teachings of deliverance itself, and the community of those that have been delivered or in the process of being delivered. That's really the essence of it. And so I'll chant the opening phrases in Pali and then in English. So you could just say the parts that are in English. Well, you could do the Pali if you want, but you could just say the parts that are in English, because what's the point? What's the point of a vow or a refuge if you don't understand what the words mean, right? So I'll explain it briefly. It begins with Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, which means homage to the Blessed One, the Awakened One, the fully self-liberated One. So we start with reciting that 3 times, and it's a reference in one to the historical Buddha, but also to the Buddha principle, the Guru principle. The Dharmakaya, the Buddha element in all beings and in everything. And then it begins, Bhutang Saranam Gacchami, which means I take refuge in the Buddha. And you say it 2 more times. And then Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, I take refuge in the Dhamma. And you recite it 3 more times, or 2 more times. Sangham Saranam Gacchami, I take refuge in the Sangha. And you say it 2 more times. And of course, if you have this isn't a type of, it's not like the vows that are in Tantrism or these like special initiations. And they don't mean that you're disavowing allegiance to whatever religion or teaching it is that you adhere to. It's more like a system. It's like this is like the code for protection in this type of practice. Yeah, that's really the best way I would put it. Yeah, it's not about conversion at all in the Buddha Dharma. Yeah, it's about making use of the available technology. You could put it that way. So that's the threefold refuge. And then what is the meaning of precepts? What are precepts? Why are they important? What is this whole thing about? So precepts constitute one of the three trainings. The three trainings are morality, known as sila, concentration, which is samadhi, and panya, which is wisdom. So sila refers to your moral conduct, your observances pertaining to your intentions, your speech, and your physical actions. The essence of it is for those three dimensions to not do harm to other beings. So for the next 5 days, when you find yourself out of habit having these negative intentions or harmful intentions towards other beings, that's part of what you'll be releasing in the 6R process. You'll find that your mind is doing that. You let that tendency just totally be there for what it is. You relax the physiology and you smile. So like, when you recognize that your mind is doing something, you have a choice. You have a choice moment. There's a choice point there. It's like, okay, do I go more into this and, um, you know, cycle and fuel the anger? We all know that these afflictive emotions, it's like they have their life of their own. They want to continue. The anger wants to continue. It wants to spread itself to other people. It wants to express itself in an irritated tone and spread like fire. The afflictions have this type of nature that pernicious like that. So this is the kind of thing you'll be pattern interrupting essentially through the 6Rs. How? By not engaging the thing, by fully letting it be there, relaxing the tension in the body that has arisen as a result of the distraction. And what do I mean by distraction? So by distraction, I mean, I'm not saying that you need to label it as bad or wrong. I'm saying it's what arose that diverted your attention from metta. That's what I mean by distraction. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. You need to be averse to it. It's just that that's literally what came up that took your mind off the object. Precepts are one, they're a way to help you focus and really enter. Like I said, like I'm saying, have fun, enjoy the process, but taking the precepts also gives things a dimension of seriousness that is helpful. It gives the next 5 days a dimension of importance. If you're following the 8 precepts, you're gonna skip dinner. If you're following the 8 precepts, you're not going to masturbate or engage in sexual activity. You won't even permit sexual fantasies. Like if they happen, sure they're gonna happen, but I'm saying like your mind's not oriented towards that at the moment. Over the next 5 days, if you have to go to the supermarket and you usually, I don't know, look at guys' asses or something or women's breasts, all of that, you avoid that. Like just pattern interrupt your normal habitual tendencies in regards to the particular rules of the precepts. So the first precept is to avoid taking life. So it means for the next 5 days, don't kill anything. Yeah, if you have a roach infestation and you have to do something about it, and it's a health hazard, you have to do what you have to do. But for the most part, like, don't kill anything at all. Do not unnecessarily kill an insect, even a cricket. Just don't kill things. It's that simple. For the next 5 days. Um, why was this introduced as an injunction? But what's the point of the five precepts? Why did Buddhism teach this? And why is it the rule of like most religions? Why is the first rule don't kill? The actual answer is when the Buddha discovered, at least in Buddhism, was that when the Buddha had seen, after he experienced cessation of perception and feeling, the triple insight emerged. First is the recollection of his past existences. Second is the wheel of transmigration, so karma, and the process of rebirth. Third is dependent origination. So it was these three knowledges that actually constitute liberation in Theravada Buddhism. In Theravada Buddhism, there is no other. Like, specifically, it's seeing dependent origination, seeing the defilements. That's the definition of liberation. Mahayanas and the other schools, even the things that I teach, they're like, yeah, it's its own take on it, or it's its own what emerged out of early Buddhism. But the definition of enlightenment in early Buddhism is the knowledge of dependent origination and the destruction of the defilements, and therefore the realization of nibbana or nirvana and the permanent destruction of the afflictions or the grasping, the destruction of craving. So why is this rule about killing the first rule? When the Buddha got the second supernormal insight, supernormal vision, he saw the wheel of transmigration, and he saw realms of misfortune or realms of horrendous suffering. He saw that beings are reborn in the animal realm also. So, and that birth in the animal realm was a miserable condition. He saw that there is a hungry ghost realm. There are hell realms. There are heavenly realms. There are all kinds of realms. And he saw that what was what easily put people into a realm of misfortune in their subsequent incarnation was taking life, killing people, killing animals. Yeah. That there was a heavy karmic price for that type of behavior or that type of activity. When I met one of my first teachers in the Dhammakaya tradition, he's the vice abbot of the temple. He said, the human condition is so pitiful in a way. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, like, some of you have been to a farm and you see all the chickens and they're all roaming and they're happy, or the goats and they're all roaming and they're happy, but they have a tag in their ear with a number and they don't know it. He's like, that's life. That's life and death for us. That's aging, sickness, and death. The tag in the ear. That's the defilements. We don't even know that they're there. And because of those defilements, we perpetuate and engage in activities that by the laws of karma, which we don't even know about, like we don't even know the rules of the game. We're born not knowing the rules of the game. Someone won't explain it unless you meet a sage that happens to have penetrated the truth and delivered that knowledge. But without that, killing people is just normal. You don't know the rules of the game, the rules of the farm. You don't know, the chicken and the goats don't know that they have a tag in their ear and on a certain date they'll be sold off to die. It's like that in our human life, everything's good, everything's great. And then at some point we get sick. At some point it all goes downhill. Old age, sickness, and death really come to the forefront. either to ourselves personally or to people around us. And we really see we're actually not very different from those goats and chickens. We're just like them, running around being happy, entertaining ourselves with one thing after the next for the rest of our lives, and then bang, you're headed for the slaughterhouse. So the reason that there are the precepts, the reason that the Buddha taught the path was because he had the full understanding of the second supernormal insight. He saw the wheel of transmigration, the wheel of becoming, and was horrified by it. And was like, people need to know that if they kill, if they steal, if they lie, if they cheat on their significant other, and if they abuse their mind and their body with intoxicants, that will result in negative outcomes because of the law of karma. So the second insight is the discovery of the law of karma. Right. So in Buddhism and in Hindu, I mean, there's a notion of it in the West too, but in the West, it's administered by a creator or something like that. In the East, it's just a law, the law of retribution. So basically, what comes around goes around. But it works both ways. What comes around goes around in terms of your negative habits and negative intentions, but the same goes for your wholesome habits and your wholesome intentions. Yeah. The first insight is the insight of rebirth. The second insight is the insight of karma. The third insight is the insight of dependent origination, which means the insight into how craving emerges and how it binds one to the first two insights, binds one to the wheel, and yeah, binds one to rebirth. So those are the first five precepts I just explained actually. Yeah. The reason they were laid down, basically, this is where people go wrong in the earth learning system. So these five things just screw up everybody. So in the eight precepts matrix or the eight precepts format, you basically just take one of the five and you change it from not committing sexual misconduct, not committing adultery mostly. In fact, the actual definition is don't commit adultery. And you're changing that to not engaging in any sexual activity at all. And generally the sense is that you say the eight precepts once a day, and that's like your fulfillment to the fulfillment of your commitment to the rule. And celibacy means different things depending on who you're talking to. I guess it's like this modern thing where it's like, yeah, if I just didn't have sex with other people, I was celibate. It's like, no, celibacy is, if you're actually celibate, it means you weren't masturbating. It means you weren't engaging in sexual behavior. That's like the monastic definition of celibacy. So for 5 days, that's the thing. If you want to take up the rule, I can't make you do anything you don't want to do. So yeah. So it just helps you be more in this, be more oriented towards subtlety. Most of our orientation is like, I need to do this, I need to do that, planning this, planning that. and being more with what's happening in the environment. That's normal. But for the next 5 days, you want to reverse the dynamic of that and just be more inwardly torn towards the metta and towards this process. So in the 8 precepts, all you're doing is changing the adultery rule to celibacy. And then it includes not engaging the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th rule are like not engaging in dancing, singing, music, perfumes, beautification. So the idea is that we're often concerned with our appearance. So for the next 5 days, as the rule, don't be. Yeah, so after the funeral that I was at, there was this. We all went to, um, one of the kids' homes, and I noticed that the mirror, all the mirrors were covered. And so I asked them, like, why are all the mirrors covered? And they said because for the Shiva for the next 7 days, where we're mourning and together, mourning the loss of our father, and while we're together, the rule is that we have to be together for 7 days. The reason the mirrors are covered is so that we don't think of ourselves, and so that we're not concerned with our appearance. That's basically the rule. Captures it perfectly. Don't be concerned with looking better and perfumes and all of this, because all of this related to sex, actually. Yeah, it's all related to how it is perceived to the opposite sex, or how it's perceived in terms of status or value to the same sex. Yeah, that's an element too. But mostly, this has to do with other beings. So yeah, just even if it just makes you feel good to, I don't know, do your full makeup, it's still a vanity thing fundamentally. So drop it for the next 5 days. Like in the morning, you go in the mirror and take your shirt off and you freaking flex your arm. Don't do that. It's just habitual. No one gives a shit how toned your arms are, actually. So this is the kind of attitude you want to take. You want to disengage from the normalcy of your, like, kind of little human tendencies. You know, you're lying in the supermarket, you flirt with the lady behind you. Don't do that. Just stop. Stop. Yeah. So these little things, by in a way, you're not you're not depriving yourself of something major. It's like you you can do this for 5 days. It's not that long. But by depriving yourself of some of these normal little things that you do, you get focused. That's the point. Like, you actually, there's a term for it these days. It's called locking in. Just lock in, dude. Get on it. Focus. So it's like a committed. It's a commitment. Boom. You're doing this. It doesn't mean you push. It doesn't mean you slam on the gas or whatever, but it means you're not doing anything else. Even if you have to do other things, like you have to make a call, it's important, whatever. do it, but just try to be with Metta while you do it. Yeah. Conversations coming in, people checking in how you're doing. Either keep it short or say, "Hey, I'm on a retreat." Like, just you can respond later. The I listed the eight precepts on my website, so and of course we'll be reciting them in English, but I'm just off the top of my head trying to remember them. The other rule is not to sleep. Not it says not. I will not sleep on a high or luxurious sleeping bed, or I will not sleep on a high or luxurious bed. That's referring to, if you're sleeping on something really huge and comfortable, you're just gonna want to stay in it in the morning and not wake up for the refuges and chanting. And that's really all that the rule is for. It's just, but if you have a king size bed, that's all you got. What are you gonna do? Especially if you're yeah, if you're more elderly, don't don't hurt your back trying to sleep on the floor. That's just gonna make the meditation harder. Yeah, don't do that. Just sleep in the bed, whatever. Um, I think I'm missing. I feel like I'm missing one. Mm, just let me check one moment, actually. Oh, well, I did already mention it. So, avoiding dinner. What's the point of avoiding? What's the actual point of avoiding dinner in this type of process? Point of avoiding dinner is that one, it'll make you want to wake up earlier, and then two, when you have dinner and your stomach's full, uh, you're all satiated, and you're laying there with your husband or your wife. There's more of a chance for sexual activity to emerge. That's really the point of the rule. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So you avoid eating so that that doesn't become a condition for the emergence of that. So that's really the point here, is that you're just doing these things differently so that you're more committed to the practice, more committed to just boom, 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 not letting your mind go into this or go into that the way that it usually does. And so then you can know and experience directly the benefit of that. Okay. So we'll be starting with the I'll explain the six R's. So I'm going to provide a link for it, but then also if you want, you can get a notepad and like write this down. So the link to it is there in the chat. So if you click the link and you go down to the bottom, or not to the bottom, but you go like, scroll down a little bit. There's this circle. Man, they gotta fix this. Yeah, it begins with repeat, recognize, release, relax, re-smile, return. I'm gonna break down each of these. Excuse me. So if you have your piece of paper or your notepad, and someone can put this in the chat too. Uh, uh, the first step, like where would the meditation begin, for example? So the meditation begins with the re-smile step. But so I'll break this down. So the re-smile. You smile. Next step is return. What is it that you're returning to? The meditation object, loving kindness. Repeat means you're staying with the loving kindness. Recognize means you recognize when your mind has wandered, your attention has wandered from the loving kindness. Release is that when you have recognized that your mind has wandered, you just allow that distraction that it has wandered to be there. I'll give you an example of exactly how this works. So let's say I'm meditating and I'm feeling the metta, I'm feeling the loving kindness, and there's a memory of could be anything. I don't know, like getting hit by a car, for example. You have a memory of getting hit by a car, and then suddenly you're like, yeah, every little mind wandering is like this little mini dream that happens. So your attention is now fully off of the metta and it's in this uh, memory. So then you recognize, or it becomes obvious that that has happened because it's an automatic lapsing that occurs. Like you want to stay with the metta, but then bang, like you're not you're not on the object anymore. So that happens because of this um, jumping function of attention. So once you recognize that you're not with the metta anymore, you're not aware anymore, you then, there's this choice point. You either go into the fantasy, you permit the thing, or you don't. So you could just let it be there. When you just let it be, that's the release step. So the release step is letting whatever the mind has wanted to be there. Why is this emphasizing the 6 R's? Why is it important? Because if your mind wanders, let's say, to thoughts of resentment, the idea, yeah, let's say it wanders to thoughts of resentment, and the standard meditation advice is just come back to the object. There is a sense that the meditator can have that um, it's almost like it's almost like you're bringing the resentment into the meditation. Whereas if you just let it be there, it diffuses it. So yeah, so like there's this tug of war that can happen with what you're thinking, right? And that's because there wasn't enough of the letting it be, not enough of the release step. So when your mind wanders, you let it be. Let whatever it has wandered to be. That's the release step. And the next step is to relax. So you'll notice that when you're aware, you just notice and you're aware of the metta, that when the distraction has emerged, when your attention has lapsed, that there's a corresponding slight tension that emerges in the physiology. So I'll give you an example of that. So I'm aware of metta right now. My stomach is relaxed, everything's relaxed. When the attention lapses, those muscles will seize up just a little bit. Like when you compare a moment of being aware right to the moment that the attention lapses, there is a arising of subtle tension in the body. So you want to relax that subtle tension. And then you want to smile again. And then you want to return to the object. And then you want to repeat, which means to stay with the object. And then you stay with the object for as long as you're with the object. And then you realize when your mind has wandered, and you recognize when your mind has wandered. And you do the whole thing again. And this is all that you're doing. For the next 5 days, this is all that you're doing. Take a picture of this. Like screenshot. So it's actually this process that because you're dealing, because the wandering of attention or also known as mind wandering, that's being dealt with in such a effective way that you find you're able to sit for very long periods of time because the metta feels good and you're just deepening the letting go. Every time that you recognize a distraction, that's an opportunity for the release, the letting go of craving. If if it's like a sound of the dog barking, that's different. But if it's a internal, let's say, yeah, a good example is sensual desire. So the sensual desire emerges as thought and feeling. You let that be there. You relax the physiology. You let it go. Return to the meditation object. So that's very different from how you usually approach thoughts of sensual desire, which is that you go into them and then experience the pleasure of fantasy. That's just really what it is. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's just human behavior, but now you'll begin to see that that's what your mind is doing, is deriving pleasure from fantasy. So when you see this fantasy producing function emerge, you'll begin to see this in real time. You just let it be. You relax. You re-smile. You return to the object. Oh, boom! Fantasy comes up again. Happens again. Your attention gets fully drawn to it again. You do the whole process again. And at first it feels clunky, like you got too many things to do. Oh, what step is it? What am I forgetting? Yeah, that's normal. Just remember, write it down or take the screenshot, and you can check the link, of course. But this explanation that I just gave you is sufficient. Yeah, it's not a complicated thing. So every time the wandering happens, you do this, and you'll just find that you'll be becoming more naturally aware. You're beginning to see how the mind goes from one thing to the next, what its motivations are. You to understand yourself more. Okay, very good, everybody. Let's take a let's do a 10-minute break actually. Let's do a 10-minute break. Or actually let's do 15. Let's do a 15-minute break because I'll make some coffee and then we can get on with the we can open with the threefold refuges. Now really I'll really open the mandala of the retreat. I'll say some opening prayers and things like that. And then we'll go into our first metta session. So, all right, everybody. Yeah, I'll guide it for everybody.